His reviews will get you further than the film will ever go. If you give him just a moment of your time, he'll let you know which movies rock, which movies stink, which movies shouldn't have been released. Say hello to Confused Matthew.
The thing is, I just don't care about cars. I don't mean I don't care about the cars in this movie. I'm just not a car enthusiast. So I think that there's a big showcase aspect of this film that is probably going to be lost on a lot of people if you're like me. The animators are clearly expressing a love for cars and apparently NASCAR here, but if you don't have that love yourself, then this is just a big part of the movie that isn't going to resonate for you. Now, if they had made a Batmobile car or a DeLorean car, that would have been awesome for me. This is probably the most anthropomorphic movie since The Lion King, which featured all animals and no people. But Cars has The Lion King beat on even that because animals are actually alive in real life, whereas cars are not. You know, depending on where you stand on the whole Descartes thing. I think this might be the only movie ever made that features entirely inanimate objects as main characters. Even the brave little toaster had a few people in it. This one is wall-to-wall Cars. So let's get to the story. A smug, arrogant race car named Lightning McQueen has dreams of becoming the new spokesperson for a new sponsor, but in order to do that, he has to break a three-way tie that occurred in his last race. But on his way to his next destination, he is accidentally dropped into the little town of Radiator Springs, where he messes up their road. The cars of Radiator Springs don't particularly care for his trash your road and leave philosophy, and they force him to fix it before he can leave. Lightning is young and impetuous, and so he doesn't like being told what to do by this bunch of hillbilly nobodies, but after spending time with them in their town, he gets to like them, and in turn they grow to like him. Now, based on that half of a synopsis, you can probably fill in the rest of the blanks yourself. There are a few side stories and subplots here and there, but the whole thing is pretty much what you can deduce from the elements themselves. This is a reformation story. Lightning McQueen will become a better person thanks to the town, and they will become a better town thanks to him. Cars seems to be the Pixar film that comes in low on a lot of people's lists. No one really seems to dislike the movie, but most tend to regard it as one of their weaker entries. For me, it comes in pretty much right in the middle of my list of personal favorite Pixars, not counting the sequels they've done. There's the list, in case you were all curious. I think that might have a lot to do with the fact that this is the only Pixar film to date that follows a very rigid formula. All the other ones break out of the box in some way or another, but Cars follows a very straight road, so to speak. I was reminded of The Emperor's New Groove the whole time I was watching it. A spoiled protagonist goes on a journey that causes him to reform. However, as I've said in the past, I honestly don't care if a movie follows a formula or not, so long as the story they're telling is good, and this one was well told. When Lightning first arrived in the town, it's just any old town for us, but they unfolded the town's history in just the right increments, so that our caring for this place almost sneaks up on us, the same way as it did for Lightning. The backstory involving Radiator Springs was very tugging on the heartstrings, and the townspeople's love and dedication for it makes you really want them to succeed. Lightning can sometimes come off as a little bit obnoxious, but the writers almost always rein him in at just the right moments. And it's really hard not to love Mater, even though I'm not the biggest Larry the Cable Guy fan in the world. All the characters were very well done, in fact, and from the more prominent ones to the old buggy in the background, I really came to care about them all a lot. Doc Hudson's real story is revealed a bit too late for me, but gets us involved in him coming to terms with his own demons as well. Doc is in fact the personal and psychological opposite of McQueen. Whereas McQueen is a famous race car who came to a small town, Hudson is now a small town car who was once a famous race car. Because of this, the two can learn a great deal from one another. McQueen learns from Doc how to appreciate something other than fame, and Doc learns that maybe fame in moderation can be a good thing too. Once again, there is nothing bad about any of this. In fact, it's all pretty good. It simply suffers from being too predictable, which you can't say about any of the other Pixar films. This is a very neatly told story, but it seems to be a bit too neat for some. As far as the animation is concerned, this is one of Pixar's stronger entries, even if you don't care much about where all the detail is going. The cars in this movie are painstakingly modeled to showcase all the cars they represent, and the landscape, yes, the landscape, is sometimes breathtaking. Is this the best film Pixar has ever made? Absolutely not. Is it the worst film Pixar has ever made? Absolutely not. It sits quite comfortably for me in that mid-area somewhere. In fact, my biggest problem with this film is something so minor that I shudder to bring it up. But it always seemed to me that the Pixar films were set up in such a way that it was all going on in the same universe, and Cars, sadly for me, renders that impossible. Bummer. What Cars undeniably delivers in charm and charisma, it sadly lacks in any real originality or any real surprises. And while I would have loved to see a sequel to The Incredibles far more than a sequel to Cars, we'll see if Cars 2 improves upon any of these shortcomings. The end.